time for another archetype analysis, and this time we are looking at the Plaguespreader archetype. An archetype I was aware of existing, but it completely just slipped my mind that it was used in the anime, just like the previous topic in Pachis. And this archetype was used in Arc 5 by this character right here known as Tony Simmons. And yeah, this archetype actually does have some memorable cards, and yeah, why don't we start looking at it right now? It's only one card longer than the Inpachi archetype, and we start off with probably what's one of the best tuner monsters in the game's history, that being the legendary Plaguespreader zombie. Yeah, here we go. The archetype is known as Plaguespreader because it consists of this here tuner monster and another main deck monster, which we'll get in a second, and also the synchro monsters, which require exclusively this card as its tuner monster. But about Plaguespreader himself, it's a level 2 zombie tuner with 400 attack and 200 defense, and if this card is in your graveyard, you can place one card from your hand on the top of your deck and special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. This is one of, if not the most iconic tuner monsters in the game's history for a very good reason. An easy as hell special summoning condition which you can abuse to hell and back, since you can basically return a card which can be easily searchable to the top of the deck in order to then search it out with a search card that you might have ready in your hand or in the graveyard if you play an archetype with lots of graveyard searchers. Or you can, if you summon a synchro monster like Stardust Charge Warrior, which lets you draw a card upon its synchro summon to immediately get the card back. And not to mention, the stats basically really complement the other members of the zombie engine with the Plaguespreader himself that he has. So yeah, this is a very kick-ass tuner monster. And yeah, the banishing cost at the for this card leaving the field after it's been revived by its effect rarely matters, because there are a lot of ways you can loop this guy back into the graveyard in order to repeat his usage. And not to mention, the revival effect is not even once per turn, so there's even more incentive to abuse his extra easy summoning condition. And I think that this is the, at least to my knowledge, the very first zombie tuner monster ever released. So yeah, what a first impression, yeah. Anyway, if you're playing zombie synchro decks, just run this guy at 2 or 3 at all times, and never leave the house without him if you're going on a tournament run with him. That and Unizombie, which is not a part of the archetype, unfortunately, any archetype for that matter, but yeah, this is a definite card with lots of stories to tell. And our final main deck monster is a quote-unquote retrain of Plaguespreader Zombie, that being Pain Painter. Has the exact same stats as the regular Plaguespreader, and when this card is face up on the field, its name is treated as Plaguespreader Zombie. Once per turn, you can target up to 2 face-up zombie monsters you control, except this card. They become level 2 until the end phase. They cannot be used as synchro material monsters except for the synchro summon of a zombie type monster. I get the idea behind this card, and yeah, spoiler warning, all of the zombie synchros that require Plaguespreader as its tuner monster, aka members of this archetype, are level 6 monsters, and one of these said monsters requires two or more non-tuners, which would basically be the reason why this card exists, since again, other zombie monsters that could be relatively easily used to summon it were basically non-existent, since you were basically limited to summoning that thing with 2 level 2 non-tuners or a level 3 and a level 1, both of which were not very pleasant levels for zombies to actually benefit from, since again, the most common level zombies you tend to run are level 4 monsters, which are not a problem for the first 2 synchros, but the last synchro is a bit, yeah. Again, you usually want the real Plaguespreader to be anywhere, basically, since this guy only has that level changing effect as its utility. But if you really like that synchro monster in question, we'll get to it soon, I guess running one of these couldn't hurt, so yeah. I mean, it's also easily searchable and dumpable to the graveyard with stuff like Zombie or a Foolish Burial, so yeah. Alright, now let's go on to the synchros, and we start off with a monster I have mentioned a bit in the past, and that is Doom Kaiser Dragon. I mentioned him in the Assault Mode archetype analysis when I was talking about his Assault Mode counterpart. But what is this? What does his real synchro counterpart do? It's a level 6 synchro with 2400 attack and 1500 defense, requires Plaguespreader zombie and one or more non-tuner zombie type monsters as material. And when it's special summoned, you can target a zombie type monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon that target to your side of the field in face up attack position, but destroy it when this card leaves the field. Obviously, the intended use of this thing was to combo it with the zombie world field spell in order to basically further your plays or to steal very powerful beat sticks from your opponent's graveyard and then attack for game. And you would be absolutely correct, and you can easily see how the assault mode is miles better, but the regular Doom Kaiser is not the worst thing out there. It's among the better synchros of this archetype, as it basically enables you to go into higher level synchro monsters if you manage to snag a tuner monster from the graveyard, or continuing link plays if it is actually used for in a link spam deck. And not to mention that the effect triggers when it's special summoned by any means, not just from the extra deck by a synchro summon, meaning you can basically the revival of this thing means the revival of one more other monster from the opponent's graveyard, and of course if you're playing a mirror match or have Zombie World on the field. So yeah, Doom Kaiser is one of the better synchros, so always tend to make room for it in the deck. Our next monster is Revived King Hades, which is another level 6, this one with 0 defense but 50 more attack. What an upgrade. Requires Plaguespreader and one or more non-tuner zombie type monster, basically the same summoning condition as Doom Kaiser, and it negates the effects of effect monsters destroyed by battle with zombie type monsters you control. It's literally the exact same effect as the regular Hades, but this one works for zombies as opposed to the original one working with fiends. I mean, back in the day when it was released, it was a tolerable monster because there were just a lot of floating effects. Nowadays they still exist, but they're not as prevalent. So yeah, the usage of this thing is dampened, not too much, but enough to be considered a bit outdated. But then again, stopping graveyard effects is actually a very neat ability to have, so I guess running a few copies wouldn't hurt. And our final monster for today is Archfiend Zombie Skull. This one is another level 6 with 2500 attack and 1200 defense, basically the same stats as Summon Skull. And this one also requires Plaguespreader Zombie and 2 or more non-tuner monsters. And its effect is that zombie monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. I mean, it's a neat form of protection, but how you're supposed to summon it renders it almost unusable due to the fact that, again, it requires specifically Plaguespreader as its material, so a level 2. And that means, like I said when I was talking about Pain Painter, you need either two more level 2s, or you need a level 3 and a level 1 at least. So yeah, and lining up several level 1 zombies is usually not done ever when you're playing zombie decks. So yeah, I mean, the buff is really good, but the way you need to summon it, renders it almost unusable, like I said. So yeah, if you have space for it, I'd say run 1. So yeah. Anyway, let's go on to the grading scale. In terms of consistency, the sheer amount of generic zombie type support is really enough for me to bump it to a 2 out of 3. Power is a bit average here because, again, these guys have level 6 synchros with very decent stats for their levels, but again, we're talking about we're talking about stats that go barely go above 2000. So yeah, I'm gonna be still a bit generous and give them a 2 out of 3. Well, realistically, it's somewhere in between a 1 out of 3 and a 2 out of 3. In terms of combat ability, well, they're zombies. They're the sheer amount of generic zombie type support, and the fact that zombies just love being in the graveyard means that these guys don't deserve anything less than a 3 out of 3 in this aspect. Now, when it comes to protection, the only form of protection is Archfiend Zombie Skull, and that is a bit hard to summon, so that's a 1 out of 3. But in terms of versatility, they shine as the brightest jewel in the jar, so I'm gonna give them a 3 out of 3, simply due to the fact how versatile zombie synchro decks can possibly be, especially if you employ Doom Kaiser Dragon's effect right, or even better if you actually manage to splash in his assault mode counterpart into the mix as well, which I also mentioned in the assault mode review. So yeah, this was a very nice set of cards considering it's only consistent of five of them, and yeah, Plaguespreader Zombie was in fact the very first tuner monster, as I actually did some research and saw that Plaguespreader Zombie and these 3 synchros were actually the first batch of zombie synchros in the game. And I found this by complete sheer accident when I was looking up some Shiranui stuff, and one of their Shiranui synchros actually had the trivia page says that it was the very first zombie synchro monster to not require Plaguespreader Zombie as material, so you can easily put 2 and 2 together. So yeah, this was a very decent set of cards. I wouldn't actually mind if they actually got some non-tuner level 2s in order to make this thing into something very fun to play in terms of well, everything. Maybe these level 2 non-tuners would become staples just like Plaguespreader due to the fact how splashable and versatile and easily accessible they are, but hey, we'll never know. Alright, so we're done with this archetype analysis. We only have one more left. It's a bit longer. I think that one is 8 cards long. Yeah, much longer. But yeah, and I'm also preparing an AMV as well, and it might be uploaded after this archetype analysis hits the net today. So yeah, look forward to that, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure to check out my Patreon when you got the time, and maybe drop a few donations if you feel like it. And I'll see you all and have a good day. Peace.